When Hansel and Gretel came near her, she laughed wickedly to herself and said scornfully, "Now that I have them, they shan't escape me. They will be dainty morsels." She seized Hansel with her bony hand and carried him off to a little stable, where she locked him up behind a barred door. He might shriek as loud as he liked, she took no notice of him. Then she went to Gretel and shook her till she woke up and cried, "Get up, little lazybones, fetch some water and cook something nice for your brother. He is in the stable and has to be fattened. When he is nice and fat, I will eat him." Gretel began to cry bitterly, but it was no use. She had to obey the witch's orders. The best food was now cooked for poor Hansel, but Gretel got nothing but the shells of crayfish. The old woman hobbled to the stable every morning and cried, "Hansel, put your finger out for me to feel how fat you are." Hansel put out a knuckle bone, and the old woman, whose eyes were too dim to see, thought it was his finger, and she was much astonished that he did not get fat. When 4 weeks had passed and Hansel still kept very thin, she became very impatient and could wait no longer. "Now then, Gretel," she cried, "bustle along and fetch the water. Fat or thin, tomorrow I will kill Hansel and eat him." Oh, how his poor little sister grieved. As she carried the water, the tears streamed down her cheeks. "Dear God, help us," she cried. "If only the wild animals in the forest had eaten us, we should at least have died together." "You may spare your lamentations. They will do you no good," said the old woman. Early in the morning, Gretel had to go out to fill the kettle with water, and then she had to kindle a fire and hang the kettle over it. "We will bake first," said the old witch. "I have heated the oven and kneaded the dough." She pushed poor Gretel towards the oven and said, "Creep in and see if it is properly heated, and then we will put the bread in." She meant, when Gretel had gone in, to shut the door and roast her, but Gretel saw her intention and said, "I don't know how to get in. How am I to manage it?" "Stupid goose," cried the witch. "The opening is big enough. You can see that I could get into it myself." She hobbled over and stuck her head into the oven. But Gretel gave her a push which sent the witch right in, and then she banged the door and bolted it. "Oh, oh!" the witch began to howl horribly, but Gretel ran away and left the wicked witch to perish miserably. Gretel ran as fast as she could to the stable. She opened the door and cried, "Hansel, we are saved! The old witch is dead!" Hansel sprang out like a bird out of a cage when the door is set open. How delighted they were! They fell upon each other's necks and kissed each other and danced about for joy. As they had nothing more to fear, they went into the witch's house, and in every corner they found chests full of pearls and precious stones. "These are better than pebbles," said Hansel as he filled his pockets. Gretel said, "I must take something home with me, too," and she filled her apron. "But now we must go," said Hansel, "so that we may get out of this enchanted wood." After they walked for a while, the wood seemed to grow more and more familiar to them, and at last they saw their father's cottage in the distance. They began to run and rushed inside, where they threw their arms around their father's neck. The man had not had a single happy moment since he deserted his children in the wood, and in the meantime his wife had died. Gretel shook her apron and scattered the pearls and precious stones all over the floor, and Hansel added handful after handful out of his pockets. So all their troubles came to an end, and they lived together as happily as possible.